Okay. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the colored pencil bunny in a scarf drawing. Um, my name is Anita Thompson, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you to Karen and Rebecca of Wrightstown Library for always picking me to do these programs, and all of you for showing up. So we're going to be doing this colored pencil. It is the full page. I'm using 9 by 12 paper. You're welcome to use 8.5 by 11 as well. It'll just be, a little smaller. But we're going to get started with the pencil part. I want to remind you to draw lightly. I always draw darker so that you're able to see it on Zoom. And we're going to get started. I'm just going to fuss with my camera one more time here. Move it over. There we go. Okay, so we're going to get started at the top of our page, but we're going to go down probably about four-ish inches, and we're going to create the top of the head of the bunny. So, and okay. So we're going to at first make the top of the head a little bit roundish. Later on, we'll go back and we'll create the hairs sticking up. So his head is a little bit kind of hourglass shaped, sort of, because the way I made him, his eyes kind of go inward and then his cheeks puff out. You're welcome to change however you like him to look a little more, but a little bit like this. And just take your time and get that shape right. I'm gonna make mine a little bit. Nope, okay. I was gonna make it a little wider, but I think that might be it. At the bottom, I like to, flatten it out just a little bit because we're gonna be adding the scarf. Okay. And when you're ready, we're going to add the ears. So they're going to be curvy at the top part and sort of the bottom part when it connects, when the ear connects to his head. And the same with the other one. You're also welcome to make one of the ears a little more floppy. It's funny, I was showing my niece this drawing over the holiday, and she said, "You should make one of the ears floppy." And I thought, well, that's cute. So feel free to do that if you want. And then you're going to make the inside of the ear, which is kind of shaped like so, at least on the right side. I don't know why I started with the right side inside first. And the left side here. And I've had lots of comments that people enjoy these whimsical ones. So I have some more ideas for the summer with other kind of whimsical animals.
You need to do a cow.
I know, I know. I was actually going to surprise you because a cow is on the list.
A Highland cow
Good.
too.
Yay!
A Highland cow. I know you love the Highland cows. Yeah, I thought I have never done a cow. Um, Of course, the kids like those, what are they called? Capybaras. They're like so in right now. Oh my gosh. So funny. It's like just like these animals that for some reason, I don't know if like advertising sort of, focuses on certain animals and then they make them popular or the kids make them popular for, I don't know how that works, but it's like, forever I was seeing axolotls all over the place. I never even knew what an axolotl was. And when I saw it, I was like, that's fake. That's like AI or something. Nope, they're real. So we're going.
Phoebe did a,
Oh, go ahead. I'm
oh,
sorry.
oh, I was just going to say that Phoebe did a book on a capybara when she was in grade school. I'll have to share it
Really?
with you. Yeah, she wrote a book with all the illustrations. It's cute.
Oh my gosh, I want to see that. So cute. I used to do stuff like that when I was a kid. I would because I wanted to be I wanted to be an author too, like wanted to be an author illustrator. And so I used to make up my own little books. I don't know where they went though. Unfortunately, my mom is a big thrower outer, and I'm the opposite. Like I save everything. So I don't know if like I don't know, maybe she still has them. I should ask her. I don't know where they ended up. Anyway, we're moving on to the eyes. And so we want to make that eye shape like this, and then making sure that around the eye, we make some, kind of like some lines so that it looks a bit like it is, um, a little bit recessed in the skin. And then, of course, some eyelashes here. We need to add some eyelashes. It's like Maybelline eyelashes. There's a commercial. Is it like, remember it was like, is it called Is It Real or is it Maybelline? Something like that.
Think it's maybe she's born with it.
Maybe
Maybe it's
she's born with
Maybelline.
it. Maybe it's Maybelline. You
Yeah.
got, yeah. That
Way
sounds
too
like,
much product of way too much television in the 70s.
I still remember that one shampoo. I mean, I think I was a kid and it was like called it was like talking about alkaline shine and it would like, the woman would kind of like flip her hair and then flip it back. And I don't know what it was, but I remember I had long hair and my one aunt would always wash my hair and do that. And it was like some commercial in the
Was that the
70s.
Breck girl?
That was probably it. I think that was I'm gonna have to write that down and ask her, like, what was that from? Because I remember it was like the shine, the alkaline shine. It was probably a song. So funny. So funny the stuff like you remember from TV, but that's probably why the stuff used to sell. So you're going to go over to the other side, the right side here, and kind of, flip it and do the same thing with that eye. Now, I just sort of draw in a little bit of my of the eyelashes, but I will, oops, sorry, it got a little fuzzy there. It's funny, right now it looks like a rhinoceros. I have to make the cheeks a little puffier. There we go. And then, his nose and mouth are much lower toward the bottom of his or her face. Actually, I'm going to make it even lower. So where the cheeks are, the nose is a bit lower than the cheeks. If you're wondering, about where you would put the nose. And feel free again to make it a little bit higher or lower. And then I like to kind of make just a little bit of the top part of the nose slightly like that. I have to say, he was pretty fun to sit and doodle. It started off honestly as a doodle um, late at night, and it was kind of fun drawing, kind of cute, you know? Like I can't say it's always my style, but or at least it used to not be, but now I'm kind of liking the whole. Remember when woodland animals were really big a few years ago, and they might still be. I don't know. I really like that whole woodland animal feel. So when we're coming here to the scarf, it is a bunch of kind of cylinders. Kind of breaks up into smaller sections, you know, and it's okay if you don't get it perfectly right the way mine looks. I always say, you know, you can make it look like your own. I say it with the kids' workshops and I say it with the adult workshops. You do want to make sure that the bottoms of each section of the scarf are kind of rounded because it's going to give that illusion that, you know, the rabbit is has volume. Need to make this one a little bit more um, sort of stacked differently. And then it goes across. And we have a little bit of that scarf kind of hanging down on the right side. And of course, we have a little fluffy part of the scarf hanging over. Again, still on the right side. Kind of haven't tackled the left side too much yet. I mean, with the scarf. I feel like he's kind of fun to do. So if you get a little too lost in, you know, some of the lines in the scarf, you can just make it your own. I always like when animals have, you know, they draw animals that forget what that's called, but they kind of humanize them. There's a word for it, and I can't think of it. But I always think it's kind of funny. Yep, thank you. Anthrop. Oh my gosh, let me try and I'm gonna try anthrop anthropomorphizate. Wait, am I saying that right?
Anthropomorphization.
Thank you. Nice. Try and say that 3 times.
That's a good vocabulary word.
I agree.
I was thinking personification, but that makes more sense. Anthropomorphization.
Yeah. I've seen it before. I don't think I've ever tried to pronounce it. And probably because I looked at it and went, nope. Okay, so I've kind of made you know, some light kind of some light lines to indicate that the scarf is kind of flowing over there. Oops. Okay, and I think, take a look if you're satisfied with how it looks. We can start with the eyes. I like to kind of start with the eyes, which are actually black and brown. Um, so it probably doesn't quite look like it would be, but oh, one quick thing before we start. I like to kind of erase the top part of the head, and still leave, a little bit of that line so that, I can tell where the top of the head's going to be, but then we can add in the hair. The other thing is if you drew a bit dark, you can now kind of lighten up your lines, just by, kind of taking your eraser and going over them. I think I'm also gonna make his head a little bit, a little more slanted up towards his ears here. So anything that you want to fix before we get into the color, you can do that now. Oh, is it blurry? You know what? I probably keep, I apologize. I probably keep going and going too close to the camera. So thank you for letting me know that. I'm gonna raise up the camera a little bit. Is that better? Hopefully. Okay. So we are going to outline the eyes. Ah, it's a smidge. Like so it's still blurry, you're saying? Let me see. It goes in and out. Okay. I wonder if it goes in and out when I'm I feel like it might be doing that if I'm going near it, but let me know if that's different. I'm also going to go a little closer now so that you can see it. He is pretty light, so what I'm going to do, oh, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you for letting me know. Absolutely. Yeah, and if anybody else has any other questions, you can always put them in the chat. Okay, so we're going to use the black and we're going to outline the eye. And remember, we have like a white spot here, the highlight. So we're going to outline both eyes. And I make it a little bit pointier at the bottom of each eye. And then we're going to start to color it in. But what I do first is I color it in with the black, kind of lightly, and then add some brown towards, the highlight of the eye. And then I add, darker black all around. And I will show you what I mean. I'm going to go even closer at this point. Now that we're up close. So basically, the eye is darker right at the top and along the left side. So this eye. And then I'm going to add some brown for color, kind of in the middle. And then going to darken it up again. So I'm going to kind of just show you the original up close. I don't know if you can kind of tell that. So it's, black, it's darker here and all along here, but there's some brown here with a little bit of lightening up right before you get to the highlight. Can you see that? There's just a little bit of lightening up. And so what you do with that is, you can just go in with the black and kind of make a line and just color lightly next to the highlight. So I'm going to make a line here. And now start darkening up. So really pressing on the black. I'm going to go really close so that you can see. I've always loved eyes. They've always been my favorite. So I feel like I always pay attention to the eyes in whatever, if I'm drawing something human, animal, bug. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing to the other eye. I feel like it's relaxing to do his eye. You have to kind of slow down and sort of make a gradient almost.
Are we doing it like opposite or the same?
So opposite, so like it's darker on
Around the outside
yep,
portion?
around the outside.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. That's a good question. I probably should have mentioned that. Okay, now I'm going to add the brown. And so you can, start to go quite a bit darker after you've added the brown. And then you can even add a little bit more brown after you've completed sort of the, both of those steps. I also like to then go back and add just a tiny bit of black shading to the highlight, kind of like around the highlight, like so. So not so much, the one part leave, white in the circle. Just a tiny bit of kind of like gray shading, just a little bit. And then I'm going to go back with brown and go over the whole eye. Pressing on the black. And you can outline the whole thing, the eyeball. And we're also going to be using the black for the bottom of the nose when you're ready. So I kind of make a little bit of the nose sort of kind of like a nostril, I guess. A little bit of a long circular nostril, and then go into the mouth, the cheeks and the mouth with your black. But here again, this is also black and brown. So using the black first, and I do tend to add, or I'm sorry, not black and brown. This part is the mahogany red with the black. So I put the black first. And it would be a little darker here, right where, the mouth is kind of parting. So I'm going to fill that in a little more with the black. And then I'm going to add that mahogany. In the lower part of the triangle. That's very triangular. It's kind of cute already. And then we're going to be picking up our brown when you're ready. And so what we're going to do with the brown is we're now going to start making the hair on the outside of the bunny. So, we have lines. We have a line around the bunny with our pencil. But now we're going to use our brown to start kind of making curved lines and making the fur sort of stick upward. Oh, Tammy's coming on. Hey, Tammy. I'm going to copy the colored pencils in the chat for you. There you go. Well, the rest of the supplies too. And so you guys see this, how I'm starting to make fur by going along the edge of where we drew, kind of all the way around, including the ears. Now we're going to go back to that, but basically by going along the edge and making fur sticking out along the border, and then you can also add that fur sticking up for the head. And obviously we're going to go back and add more fur, but kind of just getting the edge and also around the eyes. So you can see that I keep kind of picking up my pencil. Right, to create the fur, kind of the fur look. Again, this is with our brown. And you're also gonna, at the end of where his body is and then where the scarf starts, you use that brown to go across to make the line for the scarf, but it's very light for right now. And then when you're ready, I use the brown at first to go over the lines of the scarf very lightly. Everything is kind of in brown at first, and then we add other colors. So again, what I'm doing is just kind of going over scarf lines in brown as well. Including the one at the bottom where the body will be. Now, once you have that, sort of the outline, you can go inside at the ears and create that line for the inside of his ears using brown for now. And then we are going to now use the brown to make some of the darker areas of, darker areas of fur. And then we're going to be adding in some golden yellow and then also light brown. But first, we're going to continue on with this brown. And so we're going to go inside the left ear and we're going to shade a bit at the bottom of the ear. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make individual strokes by continuing to, continually kind of picking up our pencil. Again, this is the brown pencil, so that it's a bit darker at the bottom of the ear inside. But it sort of looks like a gradient. It gets a little lighter up here because we don't have the brown up there quite yet. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. And we're going to then go to his nose. And what we're going to do is we're going to make what looks like, so basically, this is nose up close. You can see that there's sort of almost like a whitish line before you see the brown. So what you're going to do is we're going to kind of make, a brown line here, and then we're going to shade it above that. So let's do that. I'm going to go a little closer. So here again, I'm going to draw, kind of my, almost like a V. And then kind of start making strokes of brown. From that V. And I'm doing it kind of medium to light. Just fixing his one ear. I want to make it a little bit longer on the right side. Okay, so we're still using our brown. We're also going to go on either side of his nose, like here, and just kind of make two little curves like so, using the brown. And now we're going to start adding some more of the darker areas using the brown. So we're going to start up here on his temple and add some hair here. And so basically what this is going to do is we're going to add all this fur, and then we'll add more using the golden yellow, and then finally the light brown. So we're going to stick with this side of the eye. We're going to lightly shade in around the eye using the brown, and a combination of sort of strokes and kind of coloring in. Except right around here where there's some kind of wrinkles, right, in his fur. And then a little bit, again, a little bit darker underneath. And we're going to start layering the fur. And kind of curving it to this left side. So we're going to stay on the left side of him for right now. And we're going to travel up to his ear, left ear. And same thing. So we're going to make, light fur, kind of going on the left side and then coming back down on the right side of the ear, making small strokes of fur. And I'm going to go in real close. So excuse my finagling. There we are. And then a little bit darker with your layering here where the ear meets up with his head. And we're going to flip over to the other side. And we'll first start off with the ear and work our way down. So we get a little bit darker here. Again, on this side of the ear where it meets up with the head. And then very light sort of fur strokes here. You know, making sure, I'm just going to show this up close just in case you had any questions. So you can see that you can still see the white of the paper. Go on the other side. You know, building up those strokes. And then a little bit darker here where it kind of curves, where the head is. And then again, right above the eye. And that's going to take us into the eye. And below the eye, right, we have a little bit of some curved strokes kind of curving outward and then downward toward his cheek. We're going down towards the scarf with the fur. We're going to go on either side of his mouth here. And so here again, remember how we made that kind of line for the nose? You know, there's like that white space for the nose. We're going to do the same for either side of the mouth. And then have some strokes of brown, you know, fur coming out of those lines. Kind of looks like he has a mustache right now. Damn, Senior Rabbit. Okay, and then we're also going to add some strokes of fur here, right underneath his mouth. We're going to have that hair going over the scarf as well. Now he has a goatee. He's a very chic rabbit. Okay, and we're going to go back up, but let's kind of venture down below the scarf for right now because we want to kind of outline the curve of the scarf in brown, you know, kind of like darker. And same with the scarf going across. And then a little bit of the curve right here. And then what we're going to do with the fur on here is we're going to go straight down using lots of strokes, kind of, in sort of lines across, and then getting lighter as we go further down, going lighter with our strokes so that it's, oops, sorry, I had it at the bottom, so that it kind of fades out. And then we go back up top in order to make it a little darker. We go over the strokes again. And then we're gonna finally go up into the rest of the rabbit here. And this is where, we kind of fill in some shorter and strokes that are more kind of spread apart, because we're going to be adding more colors. So start to kind of go in a straight line, kind of leading down toward the nose with those strokes. And then curving a little bit on the left side until we get to sort of the cheek area, or kind of the nose cheek area, kind of nose area, I guess, more. And we switch direction with the strokes. And then remember, as we get to the bottom, those hairs are sort of going over the scarf a little bit, and we do the same thing to the other side. You can make his hair a little bit thicker up top on his head. We are going to have a chance to go back and kind of darken things up using the brown again. I like to make around his eyes a little bit darker by shading just a little bit right outside. And our next color is golden yellow. for the fur. And so we're going to grab the golden yellow. And so we're making almost like confetti, right? Because there's a lot of confetti happening in this picture. It's like a party bunny. And so we're making strokes now with the golden yellow. So you can follow the same direction that you made the strokes in brown. You can make some of them go in, some other ways too, if you want, because we're going to be doing that with the blue and even orange and red. But you still basically want the white of the paper to be showing through for the most part. We're also going to take that golden yellow into his chest and belly. Really starting to get more colorful here. And when you're ready with that, you're going to briefly pick up your pink so that we can go on the inside of his ears. And so the pink, we sort of kind of go over the brown with the pink and then fade it out as it goes upward towards his ears so that the darkest part, right, is here and then it gets lighter. And you're going to do that for both ears. We're going to add some black in there later on too. And you're going to put that pink down and grab your orange. And yep, there is orange in his fur too. So same idea, making strokes of orange. I like to use the orange as if I'm using the brown. So making it kind of go on the darker areas or going a little darker with it on the darker areas. So for instance, his cheeks, under his eyes. But again, using strokes. Right under where his nose is. Add some orange there and even on the nose. Again, covering the brown, in addition to the brown, I should say. So we're making him pretty colorful, going off throughout, but the darker areas are, where kind of the brown is more prevalent, where we've made it darker. So outside of his cheeks. Again, under his eyes. Top of his hair. in his ears too, the outsides of his ears. And again, make sure to go in, where his kind of neck and belly are, just adding a little bit of orange. Not too much. We're going to get a little darker in that area later on with some more black and brown. Bet you never thought he was this layered. And our next color is going to be the light brown. So same idea, more, kind of some more fur. And if you want, you can, as you're adding more fur, you can kind of color in a little bit, like shade as you are sort of adding those strokes. But again, still making sure that the white of the paper is showing through. So maybe I add a little more of this light brown up where his hair is, and I press a little harder as I'm creating the fur. The other thing I like to do at this point is on the outside of the ears. We haven't really made a little bit of a line, and I like to do that using the light brown. So I'm going to kind of go along, and you see how I'm just kind of making an outside line, but I'm also still kind of making sure that the line is kind of furry. So see that right ear, what I did, where you kind of like skip space, right? And it's going to give it the impression that his ear is kind of, bending in those ways. You can, at this point, make some, a little bit more of some shading where his eye is and kind of around it. And also making some more darker strokes of fur with the light brown. And I like to make it a little bit darker right where his neck starts to, meet up with the scarf. And again, remembering to go down into his belly. I also like to make some stray hairs, as we're making him here. make some stray hairs kind of, along the edge to make them furry, right? So on the edge here, here. Okay, and then we're going to put down the light brown, and we're finally going to get into the scarf a bit. And what we use is the mahogany to outline the scarf. We're eventually going to go over it again in black, but for now, we're going to use the mahogany to outline the lines in the scarf. The other thing you can start to do, well, you know what, we'll get to that afterward, actually. I was going to give another instruction, but I think it's better if we kind of do this first. Kind of outline the sections. And we're going to put aside our mahogany and grab our golden yellow. And we're going to lightly kind of shade in using, again, individual strokes using the golden yellow. So again, we want the white of the paper to show through. We're doing this in all sections of the scarf. The sections here that are kind of hanging, it's okay if your lines kind of start to, start to hang down below, because we're eventually going to be, making sort of the scarf lines, the fringe at the bottom as well. That's going to be in blue. But for now, just like we did with the, the under layer of the bunny, this is the first, light layer. And our next color is going to be orange. And so with our orange, we're going to shade in a little bit on the left side of the scarf section, the first section, and the second section, sorry. So we're kind of shading a little bit. We're going to do the same on the other side in each section. And then we're going to do the same right along the edge of where his neck is, like underneath. And then we're kind of going to go along each line, kind of shading a bit with the orange as well. A little bit darker. So again, you're kind of making those strokes, but shading at the same time. So we're building up the layers of colors. We're also going to do it in each of the kind of bundled curved areas. We're now kind of making strokes in each section. Then again, kind of using the orange as the darker, kind of the shaded part of each section of the scarf before we add the red. Flipping to the other side. Again, layering with the orange, using strokes in each section. And then we're going to kind of quickly go in each section, in the middle of each section, and just like real quick, some light orange strokes. And then we're going to grab our regular red. So regular red, we're just going to go back up to the ears. And we're going to add a little bit of red on top of that brown and pink, just to give it a little bit of a rosy, kind of a rosiness. So both sides of the ears, again, you know, toward the bottom part of the ear. And then in the scarf, adding some strokes of red, especially on top of the orange, where we made the orange a little darker. In each section. So that would be around the edge of each section with the red, except when you get into the parts that are sort of kind of dangling. You can sort of outline a little bit in the red, but then add some red strokes on top of what, you know, all of our other colors too. And then we're going to grab our blue. I'm sorry, the light blue. And the light blue, we're going to go over the outside lines of our scarf again. Remember, we kind of outlined. We're going to now outline in blue, light blue. So outlining, the sections of the scarf. And then when you're done outlining the sections of the scarf, we're first going to add the fringe to the bottom parts of each of these sections. So again, you're going to take your blue and you're going to kind of go toward the bottom and make curved strokes. For the bottom of the scarves or scarf. And then you're going to add strokes of the light blue in the areas of the parts of the scarf that are hanging down. So again, just really light. But then when you get to the big part of the scarf that's wrapped around his neck, we're going to make a pattern. First, with curved lines going one way. And then just doubling over to go the other way. You're going to put down your light blue for a second and grab your black because you need some really cute eyelashes. Yes, each section, yes, is cross-hatched separately. Yep, so you see I kind of almost made like a line, another line here or another section by making it kind of cross-hatched there, there, there. Yep. Yep, that's still with the light blue. Yep. You're welcome. And when you're ready, you're going to pick up your black. Like I said, make some eyelashes. We're also going to go inside the ear at the bottom and kind of outline the bottom edge and then add some dark strokes, kind of going towards the top of the ear, but not reaching the top. You're going to do that on both sides. And we're still keeping our black because we're also going to add in a little bit of a shadow space on the left side of the scarf. Right here where, you know, his hair, between his sort of fur and the scarf. And we're going to outline this bottom portion of the scarf with the black, and also the actual scarf here and here. And you're going to add just a little bit of some black kind of fur on top of, you know, the body and here at the bottom, but having it be a little bit darker at the top where it's meeting up with the scarf. And then our final part is the confetti. And so what I first did was I went along the left side of the rabbit and I started kind of scribbling using the light blue right up against the rabbit there. And then I started making confetti. Started with the blue first. This is the light blue. I'm going to switch to the dark blue. You can make things like, you know, curving lines besides just, you know, dots. Also make sure to get it on the bunny. I should have called him Confetti Bunny. So I used light blue, the dark blue, orange. Basically used almost all the colors. Even used a little bit, well, I used some red and some mahogany. And I have no idea why. I just thought it would be fun to have it look kind of confetti-like. I'm adding some red. You know, remember to go the opposite direction with some of your, you know, strokes. Okay, what other color? Yeah, I think I basically did, yep, red, blue, mahogany, and orange, and the light blue. I'm so curious to see what these look like. Um, I'm going to remove my spotlight. Stop the recording.